While we've been on air in the last hour, the prosecution in the Donald Trump hush money trial have said they are resting their case. They spent the afternoon trying to rehabilitate their key witness, Michael Cohen. The redirect, as it's known, was their opportunity to focus the jury's attention on the corroborated evidence that he has already supplied. But it's been a bruising few days for Trump's former lawyer and advisor, as the defence spent hours poking holes in his story, today getting him to admit on the stand that he'd once stolen money from the Trump administration. Certainly, as we've discussed before, he's a flawed witness, but did he lie on Trump's behalf? Did Trump ask Cohen to pay Stormy Daniels for her silence? And did he disguise that payment as a legal expense to hide it from the New York voters?
But things really got wild in that courtroom. Donald Trump, seated for his civil fraud trial, suddenly found himself in a serious bind. With Michael Cohen on the witness stand, Trump's secrets were being laid bare. Cohen testified against him, laying out evidence that painted Trump in a decidedly unfavorable light. Desperate to change the momentum, Trump's lawyers tried everything. They objected repeatedly, aggressively cross-examined Cohen, and ultimately asked Judge Arthur Engoron to dismiss the case entirely, arguing that Cohen's testimony was too unreliable for the trial to continue. Judge Engoron wasn't buying it. After hearing their arguments, he flatly rejected the request, stating, "No, there's no basis to dismiss this case. The trial will continue." That's when Trump abruptly stood up and stormed out of the courtroom, flanked by Secret Service agents. Lawyers, court officers, and reporters watched in stunned silence as he exited, appearing to throw what could only be described as a tantrum over a ruling he didn't like.
His own defense.
No, he won't. His lawyers have indicated that they will be calling Robert Costello, who is now on the stand, who's a lawyer who served as an intermediary between the Trump camp and Michael Cohen. They've also indicated that they may call a former commissioner of the Federal Election Commission. But they've given no sign that they're thinking of calling their client to the stand. And it would be suicidal for Trump to testify in his own defense, and his lawyers know that.
So Trump really made a scene by walking out during his own trial, which is already a wild move in itself. But let's unpack this, because it gets even crazier. This wasn't the first time judges had to deal with Trump's courtroom antics. Remember his Manhattan hush money trial, the one where he was convicted of 34 felonies. Judge Juan Merchan repeatedly held Trump in contempt for violating a gag order, attacking witnesses and jurors online, and blatantly ignoring rules that every other defendant is expected to follow. At first, the judge went easy on him, issuing fines starting at $1,000 per violation. For someone like Trump, that amount is pocket change, so unsurprisingly, it didn't stop him. He kept violating the gag order, continued posting inflammatory content, and kept attacking people involved in the case. Eventually, Judge Merchan escalated his warnings, ordering Trump to remove offending posts and making it clear that continued violations would carry serious consequences. Then came the ultimatum. Judge Merchan warned Trump that if he continued ignoring court orders, jail time would be on the table. Yes, jail time for a former president. Merchan emphasized that jailing a former president would be a last resort, something no judge wants to do, but if it became necessary to preserve the fairness and integrity of the trial, he would not hesitate. That's how far Trump pushed things. What's most baffling is how unfazed Trump appeared. He kept pushing boundaries, defying authority, and acting as though the rules simply didn't apply to him. In his mind, former presidents don't go to jail. They don't get held in contempt. They operate above the system. But something has started to change. Judges are pushing back. They're making it clear that Trump is not above the law and that he must follow the same rules as everyone else. And if he doesn't, the consequences won't just be symbolic fines he can shrug off. They could be real, tangible penalties, including jail time. That moment when Trump walked out of the courtroom during his civil fraud trial in October 2023 perfectly captured this dynamic. He was testing the limits, seeing how far he could go, and perhaps even trying to intimidate the judge. But Judge Arthur Engoron didn't take the bait. He didn't block the exits or immediately hold Trump in contempt. Instead, the trial simply continued without him. Trump eventually returned, because walking out on your own trial isn't an option, not even for someone who thinks they're untouchable. Here's what actually happened. Trump had been sitting through weeks of testimony detailing how he inflated property values and manipulated financial statements to secure better loans. The evidence wasn't helping his case. Witness after witness contradicted his claims. Then came Michael Cohen, Trump's former fixer, testifying for the prosecution. Cohen laid out in detail how the Trump organization played fast and loose with financial records and knowingly misled banks. Trump's lawyers attacked Cohen's credibility, highlighting his criminal past and questioning his motives. During cross-examination, Cohen made what they believed was a damaging admission, and Trump's legal team seized the moment, requesting a mistrial and asking Judge Engoron to dismiss the case entirely. It was a standard defense tactic, but it failed. Judge Engoron made it clear that one questionable response from a single witness did not outweigh the mountains of documentary evidence, financial records, and corroborating testimony. He denied the motion outright. That's when Trump lost his composure. Without asking permission or addressing the judge, Trump stood up and walked out of the courtroom, Secret Service agents in tow. Lawyers were mid-argument. Cohen was still on the stand. The trial was actively ongoing. The room was stunned. Most defendants would expect immediate consequences for that behavior, possibly contempt, maybe even being escorted back in by marshals. But Trump walked out without facing immediate punishment. To be clear, he did return later that day, but the act itself revealed something important. Trump seemed to genuinely believe he could do whatever he wanted. Legally, the walkout didn't change anything. Judge Engoron continued the trial and ultimately found Trump liable for fraud, imposing strict penalties and oversight on his business operations. Politically, however, the walkout sent a different message, one his supporters embraced. To them, it was Trump standing up to a corrupt system, refusing to bow to a judge he views as biased. This pattern shows up again and again. Judges do have powerful tools to control courtroom behavior: contempt citations, fines, removal from the courtroom, or jail time. Judge Merchan demonstrated that in Trump's criminal trial. Gag orders exist to protect witnesses, jurors, and the integrity of the process, and Trump violated that order repeatedly, attacking Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels, and even commenting on jurors. Each violation led to fines and warnings. Each time, Trump pushed further. Eventually, Merchan made it clear that fines were no longer effective and that jail time was a real possibility. That warning seemed to land. Jail isn't something Trump can spin away with social media posts or campaign rallies. It's real confinement, real loss of freedom, and a visual that even his most loyal supporters would struggle to defend. After that threat, Trump noticeably scaled back his most blatant violations. What we're seeing now is something unprecedented. Judges are being forced to threaten jail time just to get a former president to follow basic courtroom rules. Trump operates on the belief that political power places him above accountability. For years, that strategy worked, delaying cases, settling lawsuits, and avoiding consequences. But with criminal charges and judges willing to escalate, the balance is shifting. That puts judges in an impossible position: enforce the rules and risk political backlash, or ease up and create the perception that powerful figures receive special treatment. Judges like Merchan are choosing enforcement, sending a clear message: no one is above the law. Trump's behavior isn't accidental. It's strategic. Every walkout, every violation, every confrontation feeds his narrative of persecution. His supporters see him as a fighter standing up to a corrupt system. Judges, meanwhile, are trapped. Punishing him reinforces his victim story, but doing nothing undermines the rule of law. This strategy only works if consequences never fully arrive. If a judge actually orders Trump into custody for contempt, the narrative shifts. Defiance stops looking heroic and starts looking criminal. Accountability becomes real. That's what's truly at stake here. Not just Trump's behavior, but whether the legal system can enforce its own rules when the defendant is powerful enough to intimidate institutions into hesitation. This isn't just courtroom drama. It's a stress test for democracy itself. If Trump proves that walking out of court, violating orders, and defying judges carries no real consequences, it sets a dangerous precedent. It teaches future powerful figures exactly how to undermine accountability, create chaos, raise political costs, and dare the system to respond. Whether judges ultimately hold the line or back down will shape the future of equal justice under the law. Right now, we're watching that battle unfold in real time, and the outcome will matter for decades to come.